So this video is going to be a series that I'm going to do, especially since it's October and it's Halloween month and I love these stories, and like I'm so glad that I experienced them, and I find myself very lucky because some people don't get to experience paranormal stuff, and there's a lot of people out there who don't believe in it, which is cool, like whatever. But I guess this series is going to be some just personal stories that I've experienced with paranormal. Um, I guess I'm gonna start with like some childhood stories and like the house I grew up in, and then maybe some videos, the house I live in now, because I've experienced it everywhere I've went. Um, for a long time, I always thought, like, especially growing up in the house that I grew up in, I always just assumed it was the house. Like, I was like, well, this house is haunted, like, it's targeting me, but it's haunted, and, like, as I moved out and, like, went other places or whatever, I realized it was me. It wasn't the house, because I experienced these things everywhere I go, regardless. Like, my parents have actually moved from the house I grew up in now, to a different house, but, I've felt things there and heard things there, and, so it doesn't really matter where I go, like, I'm always gonna experience these things, and I try not to be scared, I try not to, freak out about it. When I was younger, it used to, like, really freak me out and really scare me, but as I've gotten older, it's become, I'm more understanding of it, like, I have a better understanding of, like, I mean, I guess I see it more as a gift than a curse, because for a long time it felt like a curse. But now that I understand it better and stuff, like the spirits and energies that, seem to be attracted to me don't seem as negative as they used to be, and I guess maybe, like, when you're a kid, you're just so open to the world, and everything is so, you know, new, like, experiencing paranormal things to a child is like experiencing the rest of the world. They just accept it. It's not. So, as I've gotten older, I've kind of like, I have my walls up. Not all the time, of course, but, more than I did when I was a kid. So, anywho, I feel like I'm just rambling, so let's get to the stories. So, the first one, I guess I'll talk about, was the youngest I remember, like, experiencing anything paranormal, and if I had to guess, I'd say that I was maybe like 5. I don't, like, I was really young, like, I remember this vividly happening, and I remember the answer my mom gave me, but I was, like, not in school yet, like, so maybe not even 5, maybe even younger. I remember things from being, like, way younger than most people do, but anyway, so yeah, I mean, like, 4, 5, around that area, and I was always, like, I've always been anxious. I've always been, like, a super anxious person, even when I was that age. And so, like, I was terrified to sleep in my bedroom because it was all the way across the house from my parents' room. And, like, being that far away from them, like, gave me anxiety. Like, I was just, like, scared the house was gonna catch fire and, like, all these weird things that I'll make a whole nother video about later. But, so I slept on the couch. And probably until I was, like, at least 11. 10 or 11. So anyway, I was asleep on the couch, and again, this happened more than once. This was not the first time. It happened a lot before I actually mentioned it to my mom, because I was just, like, genuinely frightened. And I was asleep on the couch, and I would wake up, and, like, so here's our living room, and then there's a wall here, and then 2 archways on either side of that wall, and on the other side of that wall is our kitchen. And the back door was in the kitchen, and, like, you could pretty much, like, walk a big circle around, like, the interior of the house is how it was set up. And I was asleep on the couch, and I could hear someone in boots walking from this archway all the way across the kitchen to this archway. And it was like like, stomping, like, dragging, like they were, I don't know, like, tired or maybe, like, mad or just, like, frustrated. Like, that's how the stomping sounded. And again, this happened, like, many times before I mentioned it to my mom. And while my parents aren't religious by any means, but I guess my mom thought maybe, like, if she told me this, it, like, I wouldn't be as scared, maybe. But I told my mom about it. I was like, Mom, you know, like at night, I'm waking up and I'm hearing people walking in the kitchen. Like, I remember telling her this, and she said, "Oh, it's just Jesus." That was her answer, which is really sweet. You know, she just like didn't want me to be scared, but like it was not Jesus. It was not at all. And I just accepted that. You know, at that age, I was just like, okay, you know, like, and I like once I wasn't as scared anymore. Like my mom explained it away a little bit for me. I didn't hear it as much anymore. Like I heard it, but it wasn't as frequent. Um, and then the next story, is probably, I mean, I was in middle school, like early, early middle school, like sixth grade, maybe, so whatever age you are in sixth grade. And in my room, you know, by then I'd finally started sleeping in my own bed. But in my room I had a stereo, and it was like one of those old school like 90s stereos that holds like a bunch of like 5 different CDs. It comes out and you put your CDs in. It's got like the tall speakers, and it's got the knob on it that cranks. Like you know, it's not like a you volume up, volume down button. It's like you have to turn the knob physically to get it to turn up or down. And me and my cousin and my neighbor, who happened to be my best friend at the time, we spent a lot of time together. We're all sitting in my room, and we were talking about whatever, you know, preteen girls talk about boys or whatever. And we were listening to music, and it was, you know, a reasonable volume. You know, like my house was not very big. Like we didn't have a huge house or anything, and the walls are pretty thin, and like so if we like even the level we had it, like I'm 100% sure that my parents could probably have heard it from the living room. So we were trying to keep it like a reasonable tone. So we're listening to music and talking, and we get on the subject of my house being haunted, like that I've, you know, the experiences we've had, and we're just like talking about ghosts and, you know, how I've felt things in the house and experienced things, and we're just talking, and, you know, we're just being girls, and the stereo, like, it turned all the way up by itself. And at first we thought like, well, maybe it's a glitch with the stereo, you know, like, and my parents were like, turn that down, like screaming from the living room, like, y'all got that turned up way too loud. Hear me, y'all. You can tell them from the south. But you know, like we were like, oh my god, like we all three of us physically watched it. Like it had little like dots around it, so you could tell like what level it was at. Like they weren't numbered, it was just dots, and there was like a little line where you could see like where you were turning it. And we all three of us like it physically moved itself all the way as high as it would go. So we were all sitting there like in complete shock, and my parents were like screaming like, turn that down, and like we're like, okay, one of us is gonna have to get near it. Like none of us wanted to touch it. So I go turn it down, and before I could reach the knob to turn it back down, I like had my hand out, and it turned all the way down by itself. And it was like very fast, like someone had just, because it was kind of a loose knob, and like you could literally just like do like that and it would just turn. And it literally looked like someone had done that, just like grabbed it and just cranked all the way down. And we were all just like, oh my god, you know. And if it was like one of those stereos where, you know, like you had a remote where you turn it up and down or whatever, like it was not a fancy stereo, is my point. And like you maybe could explain that with, you know, like technology glitch or whatever, but like this stereo, you literally physically had to crank it up or down to get it to the volume to change. Like there's no way that was like there's no way that it could have done that on its own. Like there's just not. And they were completely freaked out. And like when I was a kid, like I didn't have a lot of friends. Like I had a lot of acquaintances, but I only had a very few, like, handful of just, like, really close friends. And those really close friends would come stay at my house, and, like, all of them were extremely uncomfortable to go to the bathroom by themselves at night. Like, my room was all the way on the other end of the house, like I said, and there was, like, here's my bedroom door, and here's my brother's bedroom door, and then right outside his in the corner there was the bathroom. So it was literally like 3 feet to the bathroom from my door. Like, it was, like, right outside my bedroom door, and they would literally not go that far by themselves. Like, I would have to physically walk them and wait outside the bathroom door for them to come out and come back to the bedroom. Like, they would not do it. I actually had a friend, if you're watching this, I'm sure you know who you are, and I won't tell the whole story, but she, like, refused. It was, like, the middle of the night, and she woke up and had to go to the bathroom, like, had to pee, and I was asleep, and she was like, I really need to go pee, like, I need you to come to the bathroom with me, and I was like, I'm not getting up, it's, like, 1 in the morning, and I'm done, and she was like, no, I'm not going to that bathroom without you with me, like, I'm not doing it. So it wasn't just me that, like, felt these things, you know, again, like, maybe my parents did, like, they never spoke to me about it, and after a while, like, I would tell them things, and after a while, they would just, like, disregard it. Like, they just didn't, I don't know, I'm not gonna say they didn't believe me, because they might have, but maybe it scared them. Like, that, like, as an adult looking back on it, like, that, maybe that's how they felt about it. Like, they just, like, didn't want to hear it, because it freaked them out that I could see it, and, like, so they would just, they're just like, let's just ignore it, and it'll go away. So, I mean, maybe they did. I don't know. They never told me they did or anything like that. And, you know, my brother has never mentioned anything about it or anything like that. But, yeah, I mean, it happened all the time. And, like, every friend that I've had come stay at my old house that I grew up in when I was a kid, like, every single one of them felt it and, like, experienced something while they were there. And so, and then the next one, I was in high school at this one, in this one, I guess, I mean, early high school, if not 8th grade, like, I think I was just, it was maybe even the summer between, like, 8th grade and 9th grade, and I had one of those beds where you know, it's a bunk bed, but it has the futon on the bottom, and then it's got the bed on the top, and I used to keep the futon mattress up as a couch, so I could sit and watch TV in my room, and then I could sleep on the top. And so I was sitting on the bottom bunk on the couch, and I was watching TV. It was like the middle of the day. I mean, it was probably like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This was not like the witching hour, like nighttime or anything, because this happened to me, like, these experiences happened to me every hour of the day. They still do. You know, it doesn't happen at night. I've always found that really weird that, like, I mean, I guess there's a witching hour, you know, and that's a special time to ghost hunt or whatever, but I always found that, like, really weird that, like, we're gonna go ghost hunt, but we have to go at midnight. But anyway, so I was sitting on the couch, and, you know, I don't know, I'm sure everyone has experienced one of these kinds of, like, metal framed, like, beds, you know, and, like, bunk beds where, you know, if you climb on it, when you go to get in the top bunk, literally the whole bed shakes. Like, it's not just, like, you can't sneak on top of this bed. You know, and it's like, and, like, makes a lot of squeaking noises, and it's, like, really loud as you climb up. And so I was sitting there watching TV, and the bed starts doing that. Like, someone is climbing on the top bunk of my bed. And I am just frozen. Like, I am completely terrified. And the whole bed is shaking with me on it. Like, someone is getting in this top bunk, and I'm completely petrified. I'm terrified. So I sit there, and it goes on. I mean, the amount of time it would take for someone to climb to the top bunk, and I'm sitting there, no, I'm just frozen. Like, I didn't know what to do. And my mom was in the living room, and as soon as it stopped, I bolted. Like, I just ran so fast out of that room, and I just, like, went and sat down on the couch in the living room with my mom, and she was like, what's the matter with you? You know, she was like, okay. I didn't want to tell her, because, again, like, that everyone just disregarded me when it came to these things. It happened all the time, and I, like, very much tried to just keep it to myself, because no one believed me anyway. So when I went in there, she was like, what's the matter with you? And I was like, nothing, I don't know, I just want to be in here with you. And she was like, okay, you know, she didn't believe me, but, you know, and so that was not the only incident of, like, my bed just shaking. Not just that bed either. Like, it wasn't just the bed, or, like, I had a twin bed as well, and it was, like, an old antique twin bed. Like, actually, this dresser behind me matches the twin bed that I had in my room. but it, it was old and it was antique, and so it would shake, and it had like a headboard, and you always have like this much space between the wall and the headboard. It would smack the wall, the headboard would. It was shaking so like viciously and violently, and I would just sit in bed and just like ride it out pretty much because no one really believed me. I think that was like the worst part of having all these experiences as a kid, and like why it took me so long as I got older to like understand it and like accept it. And I feel like no one believed me. Like I felt, for a while I felt like I was crazy. I was like, no one believes me. Is this stuff even really happening? And but it was. Like I've had plenty of friends experience it with me, or experience something themselves, or in that house, or around me, period. So it wasn't just me. So that was the hardest part. Like, that was definitely the hardest thing, was just having no one believe me. Like, it was really scary, and I was really young, and I felt like I had to deal with a lot of it on my own, which is horrible. But I mean, not my parents are great parents. They love me. And again, I think that they were hoping that if they just like didn't acknowledge it, and like didn't, again, I think they thought I was lying. Like they thought I was just like making stuff up to get attention or whatever. And so they were just like, well, if we ignore it, eventually it'll just go away. So, and the last story, this one, it sounds far-fetched to a lot of people. In my heart, like, I truly believe, like, Scout's honor, this happened to me, and I will never forget it for the rest of my life. Like, this was the closest to, like, a physical attack in that house that I ever had. I was pretty young. This backtrack a little bit. I was like 10, 11. And I was watching on TV a documentary, those History Channel, like, Halloween documentaries that they do about, like, Lizzie Borden and, like, Jack the Ripper and stuff. Well, anyway, I was watching one about Lizzie Borden. And because I loved stuff like that when I was a kid. I was, like, such a horror fanatic when I was a kid. Like, I read every Goosebumps book they ever made and every Nancy Drew. I love mysteries. So, I was watching, this about Lizzie Borden. So I, was just excited. It was it was in October, like it had to have been, I'm pretty sure, because they had all these specials on TV about all the, they do every year. And I was just excited about it. I was like, yeah, like this is a really cool story, and I was skipping through the house. And I was singing the song, like I was going, Lizzie Borden took an axe, and was just like singing it, and was just like tickled about it, and because again, stuff like that didn't scare me when I was a kid, like horror stories and things like that didn't scare me. Like my anxiety made me scared of like realistic things, like people killing us in our sleep, like breaking in our house and stealing all our stuff. But let me get something to drink. So anyway, I was skipping through the house and singing the Lizzie Borden song, Lizzie Borden took an axe. And I went to the bathroom. Like, I had gotten up from the TV to go to the bathroom doing this. And I was in the bathroom, and I was singing it, and I was, like, in a good mood, and it literally felt like something was right here in my face. Like, I could feel its breath. It was so close to me. And it told me to shut up. And I've never in my life experienced anything else like this ever again. Like, I've came close, but this was definitely the most, like, invasive, I think, that an entity or, like, whatever has ever, like, got. Like, it was in my face. And I froze. I was like, oh my gosh. And I was actually sitting on the toilet when this happened. Like, it was right there. And I was in my parents' bathroom, and they just had, like, a little half bath in their bathroom, and so it was a small space, too. Like, I felt, like, I could feel that energy in that small space. Like, I felt very trapped there. And once I heard that, it said, shut up. And it was, like, the scariest sounding voice I have ever heard. Like, nothing in my life I've ever heard like that. And then the toilet paper spun and just started, like, coming off the roll. And I was just sitting there, just, like, frozen. And again, I didn't want to say anything. Like, my dad and my brother were there. My mom was at work, but I didn't want to say anything because no one ever believed me. And so I was absolutely, I was in tears. Like, I was so terrified. And so I just like rolled the toilet paper back up and just like went to my room, and I just like changed the channel. I was like, obviously, whatever this is doesn't like me, you know, it doesn't want me to watch this right now. It doesn't like it. It doesn't appreciate it, you know, or whatever. So it was a really scary experience. I have lots more of these stories, again, like from that house. I have to think about it. It's been a long time since I've lived in that house. So I have stories from that house. I have lots of stories from the house that we stay in now. Like, things happen to this day all the time. I had an ex-boyfriend that, I didn't really live with him, but I stayed at his house a lot. I have stories from that house. I have lots of dream stories that are really creepy and fun. So if you guys like this story and you'd like to hear more of my creepy paranormal stories, give this video a like and subscribe. And I'm gonna try and do these videos once a week, if not more. So hope to see you guys soon.